Hello, church. That's a warm and fuzzy thing for me. The church was my first memory. This church was my first memory of the church. And it was a rod and staff that comforted me. It was a nurture and admonition that I accepted, never painful. I would comment, I'm not a preacher. I write essays and nonfiction, which I enjoy. And so I'm not a spontaneous or off-the-cuff type guy, so I'm going to be going over some textual material that covers my living time here from 1947 to 1957. Dad, Mom, and I arrived in Culpeper to take residence at 405 Northeast Street in the summer of 1947 after a long drive from Louisville, Kentucky, where my dad completed his seminary work at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. He married Mom earlier while she was teaching in high school in Chowan County, North Carolina, several years before his seminary training. 11 years after taking over his deceased father's pulpit with a church field of 3 churches and over 2,000 members. Imagine that. One church had 900 members in this rural community. He and Mom decided to go to Louisville to seminary. The East Street address was the place where my memories were imprinted with an overwhelming fondness of this place, the house, the community, my minuscule family, and the church. The church was just up the street, a short distance at the corner of East and Davis. Our house was a 3-story, 20th century structure with a large 3rd-floor attic, which was a great place to pretend you were piloting a spaceship as you looked out the dormer windows into outer space. My father had a short walk from the house to the landlocked old church tucked into a narrow space at the corner of East and Davis. The thing I most remember about the neighborhood was all the boys, tons of them, baby boomers, who roamed the neighborhoods in cowboy hats, brandishing cap pistols. These were my first memories. Across the street was Bill Hosley. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but he was a jovial and high-spirited man with a gruff voice and a great sense of humor. He was one of Dad's loyal deacons, and we visited the Hosley house often. Ellen, in fact, was my babysitter quite often, his daughter. The thing I remember in their house was a lot of laughter. He drove like a madman down the country roads around Culpeper in his 1940s vintage Ford and would always blow his horn when he came around curves. Dad was also very popular with the boys in the neighborhood. He grew up as one of 5 brothers and 2 sisters. He was very agile and athletic, playing as a very able addition to the church softball team. There was a church softball league in this Baptist Association at the time, and his team would always win. I remember how he would walk on his hands up a flight of steps with ease. He set up a basketball goal in the backyard and played softball with the neighborhood children, often serving as a pitcher. There was a wire fence at the end of the yard, and if you hit it over, automatic home run. In 1954, the monster Hurricane Hazel struck the North Carolina coast with fury. It was a big deal as we were let out of school, not only for that hurricane, but several that followed because of the bad experience with Hazel. I can remember that as a physician, I had patients in the valley who had family who died in the hurricane in the Shenandoah Valley, probably from the aftermath of flooding and tornadoes. In 1955, the church had its move from the historic location to its current location on West and Scanlon. Dad was conducting a prayer meeting on Wednesday night. in your current educational building, as the current sanctuary had not been built. His topic was, on that particular night, was about Thanksgiving, not only for the good things that happened, but also being spared bad things. The example he used was Hurricane Hazel, as she was the iconic storm for those of my generation. On a closing note, before the open question and answer period and business meeting was a comment on the topic of the evening's homily and season of prayer. Bill Hossley got up with a sparkle in his eyes and intoned in a gruff voice, "The pastor said, we ought to be thankful, not just for the good things, but for the bad things that haven't happened to us. I thank God I'm not dead and in hell." As I stand here, I am bathed in memories of things that brought me here to this place. We latch on to things that stir those memories. I'm wearing a tie today. I never wear a tie. That belonged to Willie Parr Lewis, who owned Lewis's drugstore, who was a faithful deacon. So I wear this in memory of him. It is a symbol to me from the past, which reinforces my sense that things give us clues as to why we are sitting here today to celebrate this moment. We find reasons why we are here because of people like my dad, who would want us to remember that he was a servant of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That was his motivation, and that of other servants from the past is the reason we sit here today. Soli Deo Gloria. Thank you. Thank you very much.